So where did you have your jungle survival training, and what army did you serve in?
Well, I served as a British Royal Marine Commando, which is part of the Royal Navy, and the British military does her, or used to do, her jungle survival training in Brunei on the island of Borneo.
And what are the major things to look out for when evading the enemy, but also trying to survive in the jungle? What are the major killers?
Oh, the major killers? Well, three things that spring to mind immediately, and they're deadfall, flash floods, and a simple cut. Deadfall is quite simply a branch or a part of a tree that has fallen off and has got suspended in the canopy, and the canopy in the jungle can be about 200 feet off the floor, and it's extremely dense, so it can hold on to whole trees, and then they can fall at a random time when you don't expect it. So the first thing to do when you're sighting yourself in any area that you're going to be spending any amount of time in is to look up and make sure that you're not standing or sitting or sleeping underneath anything, any kind of deadfall. The second one is to look down, and that's to make sure that you're not in any kind of seasonal stream bed. Flash floods happen at a moment's notice with absolutely no warning. There's an awful lot of rainfall in a tropical rainforest, hence the name obviously. And the third one is just a simple cut. And this is probably the one that people really wouldn't pay a huge amount of attention to, but the heat and the humidity in the jungle and the constant damp mean that wounds do not heal. They suppurate and they become thriving grounds for bacteria, and you can die from the most simple cut. When I did my jungle warfare instructor's course, a guy was casevaced out of the trees because he cut his finger whilst opening a tin of food. It was that serious that he was taken out straight away.
What's a casevac?
Casualty evacuation. At this point it was actually done by helicopter. We had to cut a winch hole. We had to cut down trees in the jungle for the helicopter to lower somebody down with ropes to take the guy back out, because there are very few landing points in the jungle, generally on ridge lines. There wasn't one any very close to where we were at that particular point, so it was much quicker to cut a winch hole ourselves. Okay, so you've made your decision that you're going to spend the night in the jungle. You've dropped down off the ridgeline at approximately an hour before last light, and you found a couple of trees that are suitably situated for you to string up your bivvy. You basically have two choices now. Are you going to sleep on the ground, or are you going to sleep off the ground? My choice is always to sleep off the ground where I can. It leaves less sign and it's warmer, subsequently removing the requirement to carry a roll mat, which can be quite bulky and get in the way. What I've got here is a very simple parachute silk hammock, very light, very easy to carry, very easy to string up. And above it, again, a very simple camouflage bivvy sheet. On each of the four corners of the bivvy sheet, you have knotted paracord, which wraps in on itself, and thus removing the requirement for any tent pegs, which again can be heavy and bulky, although you can obviously use pieces of wood if you need to, and a simple bungee on either of the ends of the apex to string it between the two trees. You want to keep this nice and low, and you don't want to put it up until just before last light, when the leaves are turning from green to brown, obviously to avoid detection if at all possible. Once you've got it up, very little requirement for any camouflage in the jungle, because it's so dense, it's so dark out there that people can't see you. If they've got thermal imaging, then you've got to be working on the cover from fire principle, as opposed to just cover from view anyway, so you need to be out of their line of sight one way or another, and so again, camouflage is unimportant in that environment. In other environments, however, you want to make sure that you've disrupted the shape and the shine of the bivouac. There are no straight lines in nature, and any shine and obviously any glinting in the sun, what little sunlight comes through the canopy, can be very distracting and can give away your position. How we do this is basic use of the vegetation around us, but we have to be very careful. We don't want to be pulling up leaves and brackens and ferns and things like that, because they die. As soon as they die, they change colour, and that change of colour in an environment where everything else is green could also give away your position. So I would just keep it very, very simple.